and a big change of weather. John is back. I'm Brian Main, Tiger Palafox. Welcome to the show. Tell your friends and family. We are ready to go today. Going to be talking about seeds. Gosh, that's annoying. You know what? It's just this mental block about turning my laptop
But
off.
you know, it's comforting that nothing changed
There's
while I
some
was
things stay
gone.
the same.
Yeah.
And then when I do remember to turn it off, I'm so proud of myself. You know, it's like, good boy. Anyway, most people couldn't hear that. Welcome to those on Biz Talk Radio. Again, as I mentioned, we are back ready for the weekend. Tiger is all smiles this morning because he gets a kick out of both John and myself when he shakes his head.
Well, you know what I'm really getting a kick out about is that remember I reset everything to get started?
Right.
I didn't turn on the audio on Facebook. So while you were doing the opening, I'm like, oh, no, there's no audio and blah, 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 blah. So I'm getting it to work. When I finally kicked it on is when you heard it on your computer. And so now I can kind of make everybody think that it was his fault that there was no audio.
So they didn't hear that great intro I had.
Exactly.
Oh, my gosh.
But it's because you didn't do that, and that's why they think it wasn't because of me.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, that's good. I'll take the blame this time. So we'll reset ourselves with sort of an abbreviated intro. Welcome to Garden America. So many things happening. John Bagnasco is back. I'm Brian Main, Tiger Palafox. John is back from Idaho, repeating some of the same things I said during the original intro, which, by the way, those on Biz Talk Radio will be able to hear both intros because we were recording for the network. Back in the studio. Hope you had a good week. We're going to kick off your weekend talking about seeds today. If you're into seeds, seed catalogs, I guess, John, people are going to be very excited.
Seed money is what people get
Seed
excited
money,
about.
right,
Yeah.
right, exactly.
Hey, you know what? You knew that I went to Idaho, but you didn't know that I also went to Oregon? Probably not.
I had no idea.
And I went to Ontario, Oregon. So I've now been to Ontario, Canada, Ontario, California, and Ontario, Oregon.
Have you been to Ontario Speedway?
I have, but it's not there anymore.
Is that
I didn't know
is
that.
that in Ontario, California?
Yeah,
Yes.
up in L.A., east of L.A.
I thought it wasn't there anymore.
I don't know. Maybe
Never-
not.
I
Never
think they
been.
just took it down like 25 years ago.
Just took it down 25 years ago.
Yeah.
Anyway, I had a great trip to Idaho. And I told you it was surprising to get off the plane expecting spring, right?
Yep.
And snow in the mountains all around the city.
You said it was 30 degrees, right, when you got off the plane?
No, that night it went down to 30 degrees.
Wow.
So we were there. It was too late for tulips and too early for peonies. And they had just had a hailstorm the day before we got there and knocked a lot of the flowers off the trees.
How long were you there total?
Let's see, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Oh, my
5
God,
days.
you were there for, just about a week.
5 days.
Well, welcome back. It's good to have that chair occupied, John.
Yeah. But it was nice to see a lot of things that you don't normally see in it. My goal was to try to bring back some dwarf conifers, and I could not find any of the quart size
Really?
to bring home. Yeah, they're nowhere. And we went to a lot of nurseries.
Just 1 gallon?
Yeah, they had 1 gallon or mostly two gallons and up.
Because in
So for
dwarf
landscape
conifers,
show.
that's kind of a common size, I felt, was like that 4-inch pot, because a lot of times they'll
It
grow them
is,
for
but-
bonsai. And
Right, for bones.
then they're such slow growers that they don't even put them in a 1 gallon because
well,
it takes forever to fill out the
they're
soil.
used as landscape plants. So people aren't going to plant a little 4-inch pot in your landscape, right?
Oh, okay. I guess, yeah.
And there were a lot of varieties. What I was really looking for was varieties of Cedras Atlantica
Oh, okay.
because they're awesome in the landscapes, and they've
Yeah.
got so many different forms and shapes and things.
And they do well where you're at, too.
They do. Yeah,
I
and
mean, they're one of the low water, high
when we were
heat-
there in Christmas, there were more available, maybe because it was Christmas, and
Okay.
you could bring those kinds of things indoors
Oh, okay.
because they were small.
Now, I know conifers can be very expensive because of, like you say, there's some really neat varieties out there, and they're not
Right.
very common. And so specialty
and they
growers,
take forever to grow.
Right. charge a bit for them because they do take forever, a little bit, and they're tough to grow. They're not just a put in a pot and grow kind of a thing. A 1 gallon conifer that you were looking for, what were they running? $20 a 1 gallon?
Maybe like 45, 50,
Whoa.
60.
Everything's
Dang.
more.
Depends.
Yeah, $20 for a 1 gallon container is a good price. I mean, that's a hefty price for a plant.
Yeah.
I mean, a normal bush in a 1 gallon plant, Brian. I think standard price is about 11, maybe $12 right now.
Wow.
That's like kind of
right.
middle line
Generalized.
bush. Where so $20, that's a hefty price.
When your dad and I worked together, we would have specials
Gosh.
at Nurseryland. 1 gallon Redbird azaleas.
Oh no.
99 cents.
Oh my gosh.
Not
Dang.
anymore. You know, I was so inspired by some of the nurseries that I wrote an article on clematis for this week.
Nice.
Right.
And they were unbelievable, especially Edwards that we went to. These gigantic flowers, doubles, I mean, anything you could think of. And it was probably the nicest clematis display I've seen since the Chelsea Flower Show in England.
Which was 3-4 years ago already.
It was, well, I
When you and
didn't go-
Tiger went?
No.
Oh,
Tiger
before
didn't
that.
go. It was,
Oh, okay, long time ago.
yeah, actually went with Bruce and Sharon, I
Get
think.
that hat out of the way, Tiger.
That was
Good
probably
job.
about 10, 15 years ago.
Okay.
I'm not sure. It was a while back. But anyway, it was, to see all those clematis was awesome. And I brought back I had to bring back something, right? So I brought back some Streptocarpus because they were looking especially good. And I really like Streptocarpus because here I think they do well outdoors in a shady location. And of course, they're good houseplants too. And then it's funny that I would bring back a petunia,
Well, yeah, Tiger and I noticed that when you walked in.
but it's a crazy tunia.
Crazy tunia.
And the crazy tunias, there's a whole series of them. People are more familiar, I think, with super tunias from Proven Winners, but crazy tulips or crazy tunias, I should say, just have unbelievable flowers. I brought 3 of those back, 3 Streptocarpus, and then the Zamioculcas zamiofolia, which is the ZZ plant, Tiger, and I had never seen the dark purple form. And you said you've had it at your nursery, but I've never seen it, so I got one of those. And then the 2022 Houseplant of the Year, which is, Ficus Ombulota? Yep. And it's supposedly, it was a few years ago, the fiddle leaf fig was really popular. And this is another member of the fig family.
I'm always
Ficus
impressed
Ombulota.
by how well you travel with plants, John, when you
Yeah.
fly. Right? And you get some back and they look fine.
Well, there's a little story behind that, too, because we went exploring out in the mountainsides to look at the lupins and things that were blooming, and I came across a wild rose.
Ooh.
And so I said,
Let it be.
I said,
Leave it
Gina,
alone.
Gina, help me dig this up. So it was a stoloniferous variety.
Yeah, stolen is right.
So I grabbed it and pulled it up, and then Gina had a plastic bag for me to put it in, and I brought it home. And I'm kind of anxious to see what it is. There's 6 species of roses that are native to Idaho.
Oh, okay.
And I won't be able to tell what this one is until it blooms, if it blooms. But my son kept saying, you can't take that on the plane. Isn't there a law against ripping out native plants?
Not if they don't know the backstory.
So I kept telling him, there's no problem. Don't worry about it. So when we were getting ready to come home,
Smuggler.
when we were getting ready to come home, it wouldn't fit in my luggage. So I asked Jesse, can you put this in your suitcase? So we came home, and then, of course, it was 100 degrees, so I had to start watering immediately. Then the next day, I said, Jesse, can you get my rose for me? So he said, yeah, I'll bring it up. And then he comes back, and he goes, TSA took it. I said, TSA didn't take it. I know for a fact that TSA took it. How do you know that for a fact? Because it's not in my luggage. I know exactly where I put it, and it's not there. And I said, well,
Don't you walk through with your luggage?
no, that was checked luggage.
Oh,
And occasionally they'll go through and check.
Yeah, they will. Sometimes they'll put a little note in the
Yeah.
back
Well,
saying,
that's,
hey, we
that's what I
checked
said.
the
I
bag.
said, was there a note in there that said, we've gone through and taken your rose?
Yeah.
Or something like that. And he said, no, there was no note. But he travels a lot, too, so he knows that that's what they do.
Yeah.
But he says, they took it.
Hey, we got to take a break already, and we still got to get to your
I'm not done
quotes.
with my story.
John's got a story. We've got our
All right, I'll finish when we
guest
come
is gonna be
back.
with
She's
us.
ready
Renee.
to go.
Renee's going to be ready to go. We're going to come back. We're going to take our first break on Biz Talk Radio. A quicker break here on Facebook Live. We're going to be talking seeds today with Renee. Last name, Tiger?
Shepherd.
Renee
with
Shepherd.
Renee's Garden Seeds.
All righty. So stay with us. Biz Talk Radio, Facebook Live. Brian Main, John Bagnasker, Tiger Palafox. Back after these messages on Biz Talk Radio. Okay, we are back. It is Garden America for your Saturday morning or maybe Saturday afternoon, depending upon where you are, how you listen to us. Streaming, digital, could be Facebook Live, obviously. It could also be a recorded show with our YouTube channel, Garden America Radio Show. And be sure to visit our website, gardenamerica.com. John, you want to finish your story about the lost rose real quick?
I do, yeah, just really quick.
Sure.
So, my son said that TSA had taken it. It wasn't there. Then the next day, he comes over and he hands me the bag with the rose in it. And he said, we got home and I was tired and I took it out, put it on the chair, and then shoved the chair under the table. And
he didn't remember any of that.
And forgot that I did that.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I cut the rose in half, put it in 2 1-gallon cans, and have my fingers crossed, and hopefully it'll root and grow and I'll be able to identify it.
And for the next month, Tiger, when him and Shannon are home and relaxing, I knock on the door, right?
Yeah.
John peeks out the window. Don't answer it.
Bunch of guys with black suits on.
Yeah, don't answer it. Okay, John's got the quote of the week from Miss Debbie Boone.
Yeah, Debbie Boone said that dreams are the seeds of change. Nothing ever grows without a seed, and nothing ever changes without a dream.
How true. How true. Debbie Boone, who's now about mid-60s. 1978 was her big song, John, You Light Up My Life. And John's life is still lit up.
Her big song or her song?
Her song, yeah, her song.
One.
All righty, we're in the mood to talk about seeds today, Tiger.
Yeah, I'm super excited to talk. Joining us this morning is Renee Shepherd with Renee's Garden seed line company. Renee is a seed developer, gardener, entrepreneur, and author. I'm sure she has a story or two about smuggling plants as well, because I know Renee, and she's always looking for something new and interesting. So we won't ask her to incriminate herself here on air at all, Renee. But you've done some seed or plant hunting yourself, yes?
Good morning.
Yeah.
Yes, I've traveled around a bit looking for interesting and delicious new plants because I really am focused on veggies and herbs as well as flowers.
Yeah. So it's always fun when you find that new thing, huh? And you're trying to figure out how it is that you're going to get back home with it.
Well, that's true. Of course, with seeds, it's a little bit easier because they're not plants and you don't have to worry about a lot of things. You just have to get them growing.
Yeah, easier to pack, easier to get in your suitcase, and most people will allow you to kind of import seeds without questions. Renee, thank you very much for joining us this morning. Tell us a little bit about Renee's Garden, please.
Well, Renee's Garden is a seed company. We're based in California, but we ship all over. We have large trial gardens, both in California. I'm an hour and a half south of San Francisco, and one in Vermont near Middlebury. And we look for varieties that are easy to grow, widely adopted, and taste terrific, because we're kind of very oriented toward cooking from the garden. So the question is, it's kind of a chicken and egg, which comes first. Something great to eat in the kitchen has to be something that you can grow easily in the garden. We also sell lots and lots of annual and old-fashioned and cutting flowers in lots of colors.
Yeah, and quite a variety. And, one of the things, like you said, focused on the edibles, over the past, I'd say maybe 8 years, edible plants have been a big craze. And, lots of new chefs have been introducing plants that have been around for a while, but now introducing them into meals. And then even then, now there's been some new plants or new flavors that have been, become more popular because of, moving around the world and kind of being able to incorporate them into meals as well. Is it hard for you to kind of pick and choose what you want to put on your release of seeds? Because you kind of do new ones almost every year, right?
Well, everything for us comes out of the garden, and I write all the seed packets based on our own gardening experience. And I love to cook and eat, so it's usually just finding things that I think other people will enjoy. So, for example, over the years we've introduced edamame seeds or, interesting salad mixes, hibiscus for tea, all the things that you can make at home and enjoy from many cultures all over.
Yeah, definitely. So, yeah, I'm sure that's fun for you to be able to kind of get new things, try them out, and then be able to kind of help people grow them along. As you say, you kind of write the packages as well. And lots of great information, aside just from how to grow the seeds as well in there, right? Because don't sometimes you kind of have little links to recipes or how you can use them in food?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we cook with everything we grow, and then I figure that if I have convinced you to try some different and interesting new green beans, for example, maybe some of the long Romano pole beans that are so wonderful from Spain and Italy and really juicy, then I might want to give you a recipe on how to use them, because if you used up the 3 or 4 ways you always make beans, then I figure people need some new ideas. Or if I have convinced you to try growing some radicchio, you probably want to know what to do with it once you get it out of the garden. Or most specifically, what usually happens when all the stars align is you have so much of something, you need new ideas on how to cook with it.
Yeah, there's only so much basil and mozzarella cheese and everything that you can do at once. You got to figure out another way to use your basil. So your good tips there. The website that people can go to also for your seed company is reneesgarden.com, correct?
Yes, that's right. And we tend to try and specialize as everything in their many colors and forms. So we have about 12 different kinds of basil. We have cauliflowers in all different colors. And we focus a lot on nutrition, too, because what is going to give you, the most nutritious things from your garden as well as delicious. And usually they go together, so that's not an issue.
Yeah, that is true. So, Renee, I want to ask you, because a lot of people buy seeds with the great intentions of having these plants, and sometimes they have difficulty getting them from that seed to actually a viable plant, because that time where it's kind of a young juvenile plant, when it's most tender, most sensitive, they make some mistakes. What are some tips for people that are going to be starting some seeds before they just put them outside?
Well, the main thing is not to plant too early. If you're starting seeds indoors, you want to figure out when you're going to be planting them outside. And for most, without speaking about peppers, tomatoes, and eggplants, because those do need to be started early indoors, most things you want to figure that they're going to be big enough to go outside when the night temperatures are above 50 and calculate accordingly. And if you do wait till the temperatures are warm enough, there's many things when you're a beginner you can just sow right in the garden. The main thing is to make sure that you plant your seedlings or thin your seedlings so they're the right distance apart and they have room to grow.
Hey, Renee, I'm going to interrupt you real quick. I want to get back to sowing them into the garden. We have to take a quick break. But when we get back, I want to talk to you more about direct sow your seeds. What varieties you think would be good to do that with.
All righty, do stay with us talking to Renee. We are talking about seeds. Those on Facebook Live, any questions, comments, be sure to post them right there on our live chat. We will answer them for you, ourselves or Renee, obviously. Biz Talk Radio, going to take a break with our fine sponsors who support the show. Facebook Live, back even quicker. Welcome to Garden America for your Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon. Welcome to the weekend. John Bagnasco. I'm Brian Main. Tiger Palafox. Back after these messages on Biz Talk Radio. All righty, thank you for joining us and supporting Garden America. We are back after that break, thanking those on Biz Talk Radio. Remember to go to our website, gardenamerica.com, check it out, and our YouTube channel, Garden America Radio Show, and of course, right here on Facebook Live. As we continue our discussion with Renee, talking about seeds, and again, those on Facebook Live, you want to chime in on the live chat, feel free to do so.
Yeah, don't forget, if you are following us on Facebook, we have that chat feature on the right-hand column. You go write your question in there, and we'll get it answered by Renee or one of us here in studio. Before the break, Renee, you were talking about, some options as far as directly sowing some seeds outside once the nighttime temperatures are above 50 or, once you get out of your cold weather. First, what are some plants that you think are easy to just go ahead and direct sow? You don't have to start them inside. And then also on the seed packages, they always tell you spacing. And you just said something about thinning out. So do you want to plant a few more seeds in the chance that some of those seeds might not come up and then thin them out later? Is that what you're talking about doing there?
Well, this is a good time to talk about what you can sow outdoors because we're fast approaching. I know the weather has been variable this year, colder in some places and hotter than others. But when the nights are above 50, you can sow a lot of things directly. Follow the packet instructions. But to get to your question, let's say you sow some zucchini outdoors, which does very well once the days are warmed up and doesn't have any transplant shock, so it's easy to do. And let's say you sowed 20 zucchini seeds and they all come up and you've got all these seedlings close together. If you don't remove them so that each plant that you leave have enough room, then their roots will get tangled up and they won't get a lot of nutrients and they won't produce over a long season because most plants want to make one big fruit or one big flower or a few of them and then set seed and die. That's what they're there for ordinary annual garden plants. But you want your plants to produce over a long season, so thinning them out or making sure you take out the extra plants and leave the ones you want to grow is really important. Now, it's really hard to do for beginning gardeners because it's always a miracle when seeds come up, and I still get a thrill out of it, even though I've been doing it most of my life now. But with many seeds, you can move them around, plant or pot them up and give them away, or if you have a compost pile, just enrich the compost pile. But yes, that's one of the key things about growing from seeds is to make sure you thin out your plants so they have enough room to be happy and thrive. Here's a good one, a real good example. If you plant sunflower seeds and they may be 4 to 6 inches apart, you really need to thin them 10 to 12 inches apart so they can have thick, sturdy stalks and not fall over and get tall and have beautiful flowers. It's a true fact of gardening that everybody has to get used to.
Yeah, definitely that. It is something as gardeners you kind of know and you need to do, but when the time comes, it is a challenge. John, my co-host over here, Renee, he loves to grow roses, and he grows them from seeds sometimes. And he'll drop his seeds right into a little 4-inch pot, so he'll have 20 seeds growing up into a 4-inch pot, and then he's got to go through and thin them out as they come up. And this year, you were more successful with your seeds than you've almost ever been, right, John?
And I don't know why.
And you don't know why.
And I think the reason is that I did not follow any of the guidelines on how to germinate rose seeds.
Yeah.
So because of that, but Renee is talking about thinning plants, and one of the seeds that's always been hard for me to thin are carrots.
Oh.
And if you don't thin carrots, you don't get nice carrots.
Yeah, and those are such small seeds, right,
Right.
Renee, that they're kind of tough to plant even.
Well, carrot seeds are, you plant them and then they all grow up like a little forest. And yeah, you do need to thin them out because think of it, if you want to grow a nice, big, fat, juicy carrot, it's going to take up about 1.5 inches in the soil. It needs some room. So it needs that room or it'll never get big and it'll be very stressed. But yes, you do have to thin carrots. And they can take a while to germinate too.
We have a question online about that. John wants to know, can you thin by just cutting off the sprout at the dirt level, or do you have to pull them?
Well, it kind of depends on the plant. Certainly, some you can do that. It's a little fiddly to use a little tiny scissors to thin them, though. But you can certainly use your fingers to pinch them out. Yes.
Okay. So Renee, also when it comes to starting your seeds, let's say outside again, so we're still just kind of, a lot of people have raised garden beds now, the raised garden bed craze. There's, all kinds of beds that people can buy and they put the soil in there and then that's where they're going to grow their vegetables. That soil is kind of what you can pick, because a lot of people will go to a garden center and buy that soil. Is there any recommendations from starting from seed standpoint that people should do? Because sometimes they're planting them directly into like a compost. Sometimes people will buy a specialty mix that's designed for raised garden beds. Sometimes people just fill it with the soil that's in their yard. If people are starting these raised beds from seed, do you have any suggestions for the soil?
Well, we garden in raised beds too, and I think it's the easiest, most convenient, smartest way to do it because you can get more produce and more flowers and more vegetables out of raised beds for reasons I'm sure you've gone out to. But most good garden soils can always use an inch or two of compost worked into the soil. You can't have enough organic material. And so you just need a good soil that will crumble easily and absorb the water well to start seeds without, obviously it should be weed-free, turned over and raked.
Okay. And then watering. Are you trying to keep these seeds damp for the first couple weeks, or what are your suggestions in terms of people with their watering?
Well, watering is critically important. I'm in the dry west, so if we don't water, there isn't any water. So yes, you need to water regularly with seedlings, tiny seedlings, and even when things are still baby and adolescent, you need to use either drip irrigation is excellent, but if you are hand watering them when they're babies, you need to use something that is a fine, misty spray because you don't want to wash them right out of the soil. So don't use a hose unless you've got a sprayer attachment, and be very gentle while the seedlings are tiny.
Yeah, that is so true. I mean, I have 2 children, Renee, and I used to get them out there in the garden and have them help me every once in a while. And they used to love the water, and my son would just take the hose, just a straight hose, and I'd plant, these beautiful little plants, and they're all perfect, and he's just straight hose right on top of the plant, just breaking it off at the tip. And
high pressure hose.
Yeah. So I've learned to, if you have children, just give them one of those. I use the Dram, gun sprayers, and I just put it on the mist. I put it on mist for him and tell him he can't change it, because that way I know he can't overdo it. So that's a good
great
point.
idea. That way he can still feel like he's helping and he won't damage anything, but he feels like he's really making a difference and having fun.
Yeah,
having fun is the best and most important thing in the garden anyway.
That is very, very true. Yeah. So good tip on making sure to use a soft nose, a soft nozzle or something.
Joyce online, Renee, is commenting that she loves the artwork on your seed packages.
Oh, thank you. We have watercolor pictures on our packets. They're all created by a woman named Mimi Osborne, who's a botanical illustrator, but she paints them from photos. We grow everything. We send her pictures, lots of pictures, and she grows them from the photos that we send. So they are actually accurately grown from the vegetables, flowers, and herbs they represent. But they are really lovely. She's very talented. I agree.
Oh, that's fun. Hey, back to some of the varieties, Renee. You know, in the past few years, we've seen an interest in gardening, and I know for a while the seed growers had tough keeping up with the demand. And I think things have kind of gotten back to normal. Were there any seeds that in the past couple of years, like, wow, like it was shocking that people were buying? And before you even answer that question, I'm going to say we're going to take a break here in about a minute, Renee. So I think what we'll do is just hold that question till after we get back from the break. But, you know, I'd love to kind of hear about, you know, what new varieties you introduced this year, what varieties were kind of shocking for you in the years that, you know, followed the pandemic. And, you know, and then just kind of see what's happening in the future here for Renee's Garden. So,
all right, we're going to take a quick break.
Perfect.
Well said, Tiger. Thank you. Always makes my job easier. Going to take a quick break. Those on Biz Talk Radio a little bit longer. Facebook Live coming back a bit quicker. And again, those on Biz Talk Radio, you can hear our show, watch our show live every week. Go to our Facebook page, Garden America Radio Show. We kick things off 6 minutes after 8 Pacific Time, Eastern Time Zone, 11:06. You can interact. In fact, we encourage you to interact those on Facebook right now. That break is coming up. Biz Talk Radio, Facebook Live. Stay with us. Back on Garden America. We look forward to it every weekend. We hope you do too. Thank you for tuning in on Biz Talk Radio. This is the final segment on Biz Talk Radio. News coming up top of the hour, back at 6 minutes after. Facebook Live, we continue to cruise, and thank you for tuning in this morning. We are discussing a very popular topic, Tiger, seeds. And that's what it's all about, seeds. It starts right there.
Yeah, and there's been such a demand for seeds lately, Renee, and I'm sure it's been hard for you all to keep up with everything. But, you know, what are some varieties that maybe you were shocked about that became real popular? And then what are some new varieties that you introduced this year?
Well, I think one of the trends that we've really seen the last few years, starting even before the pandemic, was varieties for containers. More people have smaller gardens or are trying to garden on patios or balconies or just want their garden to really count and be close to their garden. So varieties for containers, we have specialized in that to respond. So we have found, and by which I mean compact varieties or varieties where what you're harvesting, if it's a vegetable, is close to the top so you don't have to search for them. So we have like a container zucchini that's compact and doesn't trail all over, and the fruits are easy to get to, and baby compact cucumbers, tomatoes, all those kinds of vegetables, and there's a lot more of those in the nurseries, especially for containers. I think there's been a growing interest in flowers for bouquets and for drying, which is kind of a new trend. Lots of fresh herbs. 2 years ago, we sold more cilantro than we did basil, for example.
Wow.
So I think Americans are interested in eating things from all different cultures. We sell a lot more Asian veggies, which is great because they're easy to grow and fast. So those would be some of the trends. And then in flowers, zinnias are really popular now, and we offer 18 different colors and mixes, and things that are less popular, I would say, that used to be popular, maybe like cosmos. And then there's some things that continue to always be popular, like sunflowers, for example.
And you have an excellent selection, at least you used to have an excellent selection of sunflowers. And one of the things that always fascinated me was growing the tallest sunflower out there.
Right, I know, right? Yeah.
Well, I think lots of people do, and we have a lot of videos and articles on our website. We have a real good article on how to grow the tallest sunflower. Me, I just like all their color. I love the deep, dark chocolate red ones myself. And we have many choices, you're right. And they're one of the funnest things to grow with kids, too.
One of the plants I've always known you for is the sweet peas. You've always had a great selection of sweet peas. And John mentioned that one of Brian's favorite sweet peas, which one was it again?
North Shore.
North Shore is one of your varieties. Sweet peas are one of those plants that they're growing them in containers as well now, right? Like they're growing compact varieties?
Yes, there's a variety. It's an old heirloom, actually, called Cupid, and it comes in either pink and white or mixed colors, and it only grows in cascades about 12 inches. It's very fragrant. It's a little late to plant sweet peas, except in the east when you can plant them later. Ours are blooming now in the west.
Okay.
But sweet peas are wonderful because they come in so many colors. The fragrance has never been duplicated. It's kind of like orange blossoms with a touch of honey, and you never get tired of the fragrance. So they're worth growing just for their perfume, and they're also gorgeous.
So, Renee, I was just going to ask you another question about scatter gardens, though. I know that one of the things we sell at our nursery from you are these canisters of wildflower mixes. Sometimes, I know you have just canisters of California poppies, but then you also put mixes together. I feel
yes, that's one of our specialties. We sell a mix of varieties that have different themes. We mix them with organic rice hulls to help spread the seeds, and we put that mixture in a canister that kind of looks like an oatmeal can, a cylinder, and they cover from, say, 300 to 600 square feet, depending on the mix. And I tried to write very explicit directions on how to do it, and we also have videos on how to sow them successfully. And we have a mix of sunflowers for a big space, zinnias for a big space, wildflowers, and that was the other trend I didn't mention earlier, pollinator flowers, because everyone's interested in having a background or a backyard or a garden that offers nectar and pollen for pollinators. So we have a pollinator scatter can, and then one for cut flowers too. So we have a wide range. So that if you have a little more room, and that I know it's romantic to think you just throw out the seeds and they bloom all by themselves, but in fact you still have to prepare the garden, soil a little bit and rake it and make it weed-free and water them up. But after that, they really do take care of themselves.
And what do you recommend? I mean, I know this is getting a little bit late in that, but, because a lot of people, like you say, they have this idea of pollinator garden, cut flower garden, but they don't realize at the end of that cycle what it will look like. Some things are dying off, some things are kind of coming in still. It's a mix. What do you recommend people do at the end of the cycle? Because a lot of these are annuals, right? Do you just kind of let them go to seed and then hope it will come back again next year? Any suggestions for the end of those scatter gardens?
Well, yes. All the scatter gardens we sell are annuals because we have found that if you mix annuals and perennials, the perennials have a much harder time getting going and usually don't succeed. So we are looking for the longest succession of color. At the end of the season, I would just clear out the dyed and spent flowers. It depends on where you are, how much they will reseed. Some will and some won't. I wouldn't count on it, but sometimes you can get lucky. But most of these will bloom for at least several months if you take care of them.
Okay, perfect. Good to know.
Tiger, we have a few questions.
We got 1 minute, guys. Maybe one question real quick, John?
Well, Rick in Star, Idaho wants to know if we were talking about these scatter gardens. Do you carry native plant seeds for the Northwest?
We do not. We are not native plants specialists. We certainly have lots of native species in these different mixes, but no, that is not our specialty, and you can certainly find and do that.
And when we get back, Diana has a question on chocolate sunflowers.
Absolutely. So do stay with us. We're going to take a break. Biz Talk Radio news coming up should be the top of the hour. And then if you do carry our show, hour 2, that'll happen at 6 minutes after. Those on Facebook Live, a quicker break. So again, talking to Renee Shepard, seeds today. Questions, comments there. You can interact on our live chat, Facebook page. And again, just for the heck of it, visit us at gardenamerica.com. Taking a break, news coming up, Biz Talk Radio. Garden America is back 6 minutes after Facebook Live. Brian Main, John Bagnasco, Tiger Palafox. Still going by Tiger, right? All right, stay with us. This is Garden America. All righty, welcome back to Garden America. If you're tuned in on Biz Talk Radio, this is hour number 2. We've been talking about seeds. We continue to talk to Renee Shepard about seeds here. And again, it is Garden America back with John Bagnasco, Brian Main, yours truly, Tiger Palafox. And we left off, last time, John, last segment, with a question from Diana as we get things rolling again.
Yeah, Brian. Diana wants to know, why is it when you take seeds from a chocolate sunflower, it doesn't reproduce as a chocolate sunflower?
Well, varieties that are not hybrids have a lot of variability, and you don't know what pollinated that sunflower, so it could be that it got crossed by bees or butterflies or different pollinators, because they are often pollinated by a wide range of insects. So this is going to sound very self-serving, but if you want to make sure you get the same color, you really will need to buy seeds again to make sure that you're getting the same color. I just wanted to say sunflowers are easy. You plant them 4 to 6 inches apart, and when they sprout, you make sure that you thin them so they have enough room, like we talked about. And you want to protect young sunflower seedlings when they're just an inch or 2 or 3 high from birds who love to just snap them off. So sometimes you can put a little strawberry basket over them or a little bird netting just to protect them till they get maybe 5, 6 inches tall, and then they will be able to be tough enough to protect themselves.
You know, Renee, you were mentioning the trends in sunflowers, and I think you alluded to it already, but maybe we could comment a little further, that I've noticed that sunflowers as cut flowers are becoming more popular. Rather than when I was a kid, it was, a seed head that was like 2 feet across.
Yeah.
And
The bigger, the better.
Yeah, the bigger, the better. But there's a lot of varieties now that make great cut flowers.
Well, that's true, because there's a lot of varieties that are really interesting colors or bicolors, and they branch. So you can get a lot more heads of flowers because you get lots of branching sunflowers, as opposed to the old ones that you tried to go one giant seed head, which are still very popular. So yes, they do make good cut flowers. They don't last too long, but they sure are pretty in a vase. And just because then they can also make just like a wall of color across the back of your garden. And the other thing about sunflowers is plant them more than once. As soon as the nights get 50, you can plant them outdoors by themselves. You can start them indoors earlier in cups and then just turn them out of the cup and plant them. But if you plant sunflowers, then a month later plant another crop, because you can have a succession, and pretty much all over the country, plant them through the end of July.
Yeah, and I even plant them. I have a slope, and I don't even have irrigation to the area. I just kind of hand water it. And I hand water them pretty good when I first plant them. But they don't need a lot of water after that, too, from the standpoint of not like a normal, like, annual plant that people think of that require the soil to always stay damp. They can go into some dry soil as well. So sunflowers are definitely one of those good, fun, bright and cheery flowers this time of year as well to plant, right, Renee?
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
They are. Here in the really dry area, we do have to water them to get best results. But having said that, everyone's seen the ones that come up by themselves and seem to grow with no water. But
exactly,
Mother Nature is a better gardener than anybody.
It's always funny too when you do plant the sunflowers, because the birds just love them and attack them. we have these native flock of parakeets that roam around San Diego down here, Renee, and they came to my yard once the sunflowers were in full production, and then I had sunflowers popping up all over my yard.
Yeah, right.
Everywhere in my yard, I had sunflowers popping up. It was a lot of fun.
Well,
Hey,
that's the kind of problem you want to have, right?
Exactly. Hey, I just posted a link to your website. You guys have a great resource section. You had been mentioning through the interview some videos and some tutorials on seed starting, seed solutions, recipes, and things like that. And in that resource section, they have all of that. So I just want to let you know that I posted that for the listeners right now. It's right into the Facebook chat there, Renee.
Yeah,
so.
and if anybody really does still want to grow giant sunflowers, good article on that one, and because people have been interested in that for a long time.
Yeah, perfect. Lots of great information. Thank you very much for joining us. Did we get all the answers question, John?
We did.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much for joining us this weekend, Renee. Lots of fun. Good luck. You're done right now, right, with your season, because you got everybody your seeds, and now you're kind of moving on to next year.
Well, yes and no. We're still planting ourselves because we're in a part of California that gets very cold nights, so we're still in the middle of starting and getting going a lot of things, and then we'll pick up the pace for planting at midsummer and having a big fall garden. I just want to give one shout out to John. I haven't talked to him in a long time, but we've known each other for years.
Yeah.
We have. Way back, we used to see Renee at the shows with Bruce and Sharon.
Yeah.
And
nice to hear your voice.
And then, and of course, I think I got one of the very first racks into the Nurseryland stores when Renee came out with her seeds. Yeah.
Awesome.
Very good.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Renee. Good luck, and keep in touch, okay?
Okay, thanks. Thanks for the opportunity, and hello out there to all my fellow gardeners.
All right.
You
Take
got
care.
it.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Yeah, that was good. You know what? Seeds.
Yeah. Seeds are fun. They are fun. And, it's discouraging when you are not successful or when something happens, but at the same time, they're a lot of fun. Hey, speaking of the pollinization, I saw a posting, and I was going to maybe write to Ed and ask how true this is. I didn't know if this was a common thing, but there's a lot of varieties of mandarins that are seedless, and one of the things that they'll do for some mandarin orchards is cover the trees during the pollination time because they don't want bees to come in and pollinate, because then they won't be a seedless mandarin or something like that. I'm like, that seems like a lot of work.
Yeah, right. And a lot of work covering a lot of area.
Yeah. So, some of the links that they go through to make sure they get exactly the plant that they want during harvest. So
I have some seeds for seedless watermelon.
Seeds for seedless watermelon.
That is the funny
they're
thing,
right here.
Yeah.
I always wondered how they did that. And then I finally learned, and it's not something the average person wants to do. But you know what? My wife and I are getting ready to plant some vegetable seeds.
Yeah.
Renee was talking about the nighttime temperatures need to be over 50, and we're ready now to put in squash.
Okay.
And the variety we're going to put in of zucchini is my favorite, which is Costata romanesco, which is a little bit harder to find. But if you like zucchini, it's absolutely the best zucchini because it's not watery like some zucchini. And also doesn't produce as much as regular zucchini, so your neighbors aren't going to hate you when you leave a bag on their porch, ring the doorbell, and run away.
Just throwing them at people as you're driving down the street like Paperboy.
Exactly.
At least it's zucchini these days, John.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
You mentioned having too many zucchini, and something that people need to remember that if they do plant a regular variety of zucchini where you're going to get lots of them, one of the other great things for zucchini is the flower, right? I mean, just so before it even goes to fruit, use the flower as an edible. I mean, people stuff them with cheese and all kinds of other wonderful stuff, and I love a good zucchini flower dish.
Well, I remember it being I think I was with you and Dana in Italy, and we were at a fruit stand.
Yes.
And do you remember they were selling zucchini flowers?
Zucchini, yeah, flowers, yeah. Yeah.
It's a great dish, and it kind of, like we talk about, people plant these plants not realizing what they're going to do, and it's a great way to use it up, and that way you don't feel so bad throwing away the actual fruit.
Yes.
you can be like, oh, I ate all the flowers, I'm fine, I'm good.
Well, that's the other thing about Costata romanesco is it produces more male flowers than other zucchini.
Oh.
And the male flowers are the ones that you use for frying.
Right.
Dipping them in an egg and breadcrumb batter. It's usually what they do.
Say that name again, John.
Costata romanesco.
Isn't that a great name for like an actor?
Costata. Is Costata coastal? Do you know? I don't know. Costata?
Oh, you mean it's not tostada?
Tostada?
No, I'm kidding.
I'm not sure.
Costata.
Anyway, it's a great name. I just think it's a great name. Hey, we got to take a break here to stay on time for the network, so do stay with us. Hey, plenty of time for your questions, your comments on our chat on Facebook Live. Those on Biz Talk Radio are going to take a break, and you're going to hear some of our fine supporters, those that invest in our show. Those on Facebook Live, we're going to be back even quicker. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Brian Main, John Begnasker, Tiger Palafox. This is Garden America. All righty, we resume programming here on Garden America. Good to be in the studio for this Saturday morning, or if you're tuned in elsewhere, maybe different time zone, Saturday afternoon. Tiger Palafox, John Begnasco, I'm Brian Main. Welcome. We do it every week right here in the beautiful iHeart Media and Entertainment Studios, broadcasting from San Diego, California, John, as we always have for the past, I'm going to say, over 20 years now.
Wow.
Yes,
I was
indeed.
just a baby.
From the old
Just
building
got
to the
out
new
of
building.
high school when I started, right?
Sure you did.
Hey, Lenore from Canyon Country wants to know if it's time for cucumbers. Yes.
It's always time for cucumbers in my book.
Well, it's time to plant
Yes.
them. We were just talking about squash, cucumbers is another one, and then melons. All the different types of melons, watermelon, cantaloupes, things like that. It's actually time for, I'm trying to think, I think all the large seeds except peas.
Yeah.
But corn is another large seed
Corn.
that you can put in this time. Beans.
Pumpkins, that's the thing too. People need to plan this
Pumpkins
stuff out
now, right?
Well, I mean, you can. I would say it's early for October if that's your goal, because usually you start them like what, late spring.
I think
October.
May or
if you,
June.
It depends. If you want to get
I mean,
big pumpkins, now's the
now's
time.
the
to get
time.
'em.
But I mean,
Yeah.
like those Pam pumpkins, you can start those a little bit, like next month if you wanted to. The
You
beginning,
could.
you know.
could.
So it's timing it out, right? Meaning, these plants are going to take months to actually have what you want, and so you have to think like, okay, it's June, July, August, September. That's 3 months. That's when I'll start having my squash, my
Right.
pumpkin, my zucchini, all of that stuff. So.
You're into gourds, aren't you?
I was
Love
just thinking that. I was just thinking.
John and I, over the years,
Yeah.
we say what's on the other's mind. We do it a lot. Hey, speaking of that, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was going to say, not a lot of people plant gourds, but there's so many different ones
Yeah.
to choose from. And talk about something for kids.
Yeah.
Tiger, you planted the gourd, the loofah
The
sponge.
loofah. Yeah.
And
Easy, great, fun, different.
You brought some to us last year.
Yeah. I didn't do any this year.
Now, what's going on in your veggie pot? Speaking of all these
Still
things
strawberries
we're growing.
and mint.
Strawberries and mint.
Yeah.
white strawberries, pine
Yeah,
berries.
white pine berries and other strawberries, because you got to mix them. You got to have them pollinating each other.
John's favorite variety is strawberry alarm clock.
What?
It's a band from the
60s.
70s,
What?
60s.
60s, yeah. Incense,
Strawberry-
peppermints. I think you've probably heard the song.
Oh my goodness.
Incense peppermints. Yeah. Strawberry alarm clock. Great name for a band.
Is that something in roses? What's that song?
No.
Incense and roses?
No,
What's
this
that
is
song?
Incense peppermints. A lot of our viewers and listeners know what we're talking about, John.
Tiger was thinking of Tommy Rowe.
Something in roses.
Well, Crimson and Clover.
Crimson and Clover.
Right.
That's Tommy James and the Shondells.
It says roses in there, right?
It's Tommy James and
Yeah.
the Shondells?
Yeah, it's Tommy James.
Not Tommy Rowe.
Tommy Rowe did Dizzy. You're making me dizzy.
Ah.
Now John's gonna go on Google and check my facts.
Hey, I brought a plant in today.
Yes,
along
let's
with,
talk about that and
along
look
with
at it.
John's.
I thought it was artificial, I have to admit.
Neat, huh?
Yeah, it's excellent. It's an
So
orchid.
It's an orchid, Maxillaria tenuifolia. A lot of varieties, and it got a coconut fragrance. They call it coconut cream.
Oh my gosh, I
Coconut
love
something
that.
or another. Yeah, and I love orchids, and so that's one that, and I love anything with a fragrance. So that was kind of fun. It's in full bloom right now, and it's bloomed a lot, which I'm excited about too, because sometimes orchids, they just get one or two, or they just do one spire, and then once that's all gone. But this one just has them popping up all over. It's a lot of fun. It's an easy one to grow.
How strong is that scent? Because as much as I like lavender, it would be fun to find a plant that gave off as much aroma as lavender, but in a coconut.
Yeah. So, for
Did you
instance,
smell it?
yeah,
Not yet, no.
yeah,
Because
you should be able to smell it almost from where
I
you're
can't
sitting.
smell.
Right.
And I could smell and actually smell that it smelled like coconut.
Yeah. I would say if you put it into a bathroom, you would know that it's in the bathroom
like
right
an
when
air
you walked
freshener.
in there. Yeah, exactly.
Perfect. And it's natural.
It'll fill up a small room.
That's perfect.
You know what's so funny is I picked some what was the Chrysler Imperials. I did some Chrysler Imperials, and I put some into the guest restroom, the kids' bathroom. And right when Tasia walks in, it smells like roses in here. And I was like,
yeah, it's supposed to. It's doing its job.
Exactly. So it was a good. Chrysler Imperial has a different scent than the orange juice. I feel like the Chrysler Imperial is more spicy of a scent in my eyes.
Orange
in my
juice is
smell.
not that strong, is it?
No, it's not.
Right.
But Chrysler Imperial is a
Right.
good strong scent. Even the old flowers, that were dropping petals still had a fragrance to them. So it's a good fragrant rose.
Hey, what's on your mind, Facebook viewers? Questions, comments there on the chat. I think we are caught up. As John mentioned to Tiger, we answered all the seed questions. So other questions are welcome. Any questions about what we have in the studio as well?
I want to know what John's going to do with your Streptocarpus at your house. Like, where are they going to go?
Well, my wife wanted them for the windowsill. So I have some outdoors. I have 2 outdoors now. And if she doesn't find the exact pot she wants for the windowsill, then I'll probably put these all together in a pot outdoors.
But they can't tolerate full sun where you're at.
No, but
Right.
my back patio faces north, so
Right,
it's
so
all
the
shade.
back patio windowsill there.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, we got a couple of questions. The first one, can we recommend a bulk vegetable and flower seed supplier for wholesale and farmers market growers?
Johnny Seeds, right?
Right.
Johnny Seeds.
Johnny Seeds is one of the best. And I'm wondering if Baker Creek
does
sells-
some,
Right,
not all, their whole line.
right.
And then that tomato, if you're just kind of into tomatoes, there's that Wild Boar Farms.
Oh, but if you want larger amounts, there's A.P. Whaley Seed
okay.
Company. And A.P. Whaley has varieties not available to anyone else.
Okay.
You're talking about Wild Boar Farms.
Yeah, but they just do specialty tomato.
Right.
But,
Hey, could you for Millie post the name of the orchid?
yeah.
Write it on the Facebook.
Maxillaria.
He's going to write it out on Facebook.
I was just wondering, there's also a chocolate scented orchid. Is that a Maxillaria also? I can't remember.
There is a chocolate coconut Maxillaria, so I don't know if they just have a straight chocolate one.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
We're about a minute away from our next break. If anybody's keeping track.
Hold on, I'm posting this.
The network loves it when I keep track to keep on time for them.
I was just trying to think. There's another good seed company that's out of Vermont that's good for growers.
You think it would be called the Vermont Seed Company?
Well, there is a seed company called the Vermont Bean Company,
Bean?
but
Really?
I just my mind just went blank on that, and I've bought from them when we were selling vegetables online.
Well,
for
that's
Garden
right.
America.
We're
Yeah.
going to take a break and come back. We have a question from Keith, and Millie says thank you for that.
Oops.
So, Keith, we're going to try to answer your question when we return. For the rest of you on Facebook, go ahead and post your questions, your comments. Biz Talk Radio, thank you for tuning in. This, by the way, is last week's show, but we always keep you up to date as best we can. Our Facebook page, of course, is right here in front of you. We've got a website, gardenamerica.com, YouTube channel, Garden America Radio Show. Okay, break time here on Garden America. Back after these messages on Biz Talk Radio. Stay with us. We are back both on Biz Talk Radio, Facebook Live, and as we always say, we never went anywhere. We're right here, but back live on the show is what we really mean. Along with Tiger Palafox, John Bagnasco, I'm Brian Main. Welcome to the show. We've got Keith's question. Ever heard of a ponytail plant? Is it available?
Ponytail palm? Ponytail plant.
He's got plant.
Have you ever heard of ponytail plant, John?
Yeah, I'm sure he's talking about ponytail palm.
Palm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which
Yeah.
is not a palm,
Not really a palm, right?
No.
right? It's
But it does look like a ponytail.
right. Bocarnia recurvata.
That's it. That's the name I couldn't think of, Tiger.
And if you go to Balboa Park,
Yeah.
you'll see what they look like when they're full grown. Some that are they're probably about 30, 40 years old, maybe
Yep.
even older. And
Yep.
they're about 30 feet tall, too.
Yeah, they have them kind of scattered through the park in different areas. I know there's a couple by the their greenhouse, their pavilion. And then they also have a canyon area that there's a few varieties. They call it Palm Canyon, and like you say, it's not a palm, but
Right.
it is in Palm Canyon.
Very drought tolerant because it has that caudex to it that stores water, and a great house plant.
Yeah.
Or a container plant because they'll last forever in smaller pots.
And actually, at the San Diego Zoo, they have them near the rhinoceros exhibit. Some really cool specimen ones too. If I remember correctly, they were by the rhinoceros. So, yeah. So as far as where you can get it, Keith, I mean, they're
Mission
pretty,
Hills Nursery.
yeah, I was going to say they're pretty common.
Yeah,
So
real
we
close
have
to you,
them.
Keith.
We have them, I believe, at Mission Hills Nursery pretty regularly. But I think most garden centers in Southern California stock them. They're not super exclusive or rare. So
There was a nursery in Fallbrook on Mission Road that had planted them. They must have been like 4-inch pots. And they planted them side by side in a row.
really,
And 20 years later, they just had to come through with a bulldozer and
oh,
dig them
that's
all
sad.
out. I know.
Oh,
Why they
But-
did that, I have no idea.
And that's one of those ones that can be dug up pretty
Oh, easily, right.
and transplanted.
Right.
Because all that it needs is within the palm, the stump itself, the base. So, yeah, I've seen those in pots, and there's no real root system to them whatsoever.
You saw your little note from your daughter, right, John?
She wants me to go back and help her plant all the plants that we bought.
Did you guys buy a lot for her?
We did. I don't know about a lot, but we did buy some. She was the reason we went to
You dropped some coin.
Ontario, Oregon.
Uh-huh.
And, maybe, you know what? I will definitely go help her as soon as I've planted all my roses.
Oh, yeah. Couple years then, Gina. Sorry.
Yeah, it's like, don't hold your breath.
Yeah.
We've got a few more down the line there, John.
Okay, Carla says, where is she here? She was just giving us attaboys.
Oh, nice.
She
Thank you,
says,
Carla.
a spectacular week, guys, from the newsletter.
There you go. Way to go, John.
Thanks for plant name correction. And to guest Renee. to all the discussions.
Nice.
It's always good when we break through to people, when we present something
You
they're
like
really interested in.
affirmation, don't you?
Yeah, especially with our guests,
Yeah.
and because you never know how it's going to
Right.
hit home with people. We bring guests on every week, and you're not sure how many people are going to tune in, how many people really care.
We try to change the subject up.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
so that way, and like you say, sometimes it hits with people, sometimes not
'Cause
so much.
I know next week we're going to bring in a couple of clowns, right?
Yeah.
Discuss what used to be
the
called the
plastic
circus,
flowers.
which
I
is
was
no
just
longer.
thinking, why would we need a couple more clowns? Hey, Sue wants to know if we gave the names of the potted plants, and you
Yeah.
just gave the name of the orchid.
And some people are joining us late,
which-
so
yeah, which is the coconut orchid, and then there's 3 Streptocarpus,
Yeah.
which are members of the African violet family, but they will take a little cooler temperatures. Then this one you're holding up was a petunia, and the reason I brought it in is
gosh, that's beautiful.
there's a line of petunias called crazy tunias. And Brian, if you could pick out a dozen, and every one would be just as different as that.
You know what? From here, those flowers look like velvet.
Yeah, they're really unbelievable. And then the ZZ plant, it sounds like a
ZZ
it
Top.
It sounds
is
like
what
a
I
disease.
think of it,
ZZ
right?
Top. But Zamioculcas, Zamiofolia, this is a purple-leaved variety, which I had never seen before. And then the last plant was the 2022 houseplant of the year, which is Ficus Ombulota. And umbulata, Brian, means umbrella, right? And it has kind of an umbrella look to it,
Mhm.
with
Do
the
you-
big leaves.
You've seen those videos of Indonesia and Asia where people are using those leaves
Right.
as umbrellas?
Oh, yeah.
Is that probably? I mean, I know they do that with philodendrons a lot because
Yeah.
philodendrons get giant too.
There's
But it
one
kind of-
plant that they use as an umbrella, which has got the biggest leaf I've ever seen, and I can't remember it offhand. But I had researched that, thinking, how can I get one of these?
When my son and I went to Hawaii years ago, and we were hiking these mountains and trails, everything was bigger. The pothos leaves.
Oh yeah.
Everything was
Yeah.
just huge. And I assume it's because of the weather, the humidity, and just the proximity geographically of where the islands are. It's just
Oh, the
amazing.
pothos you're talking
Yeah.
about. Yeah, the
Every-
one they're growing up palm trees, right?
Unbelievable. Yeah. Huge.
Those are mature leaves. The ones that we have on our, like you've got here in the studio, those are immature leaves. But
Very
the-
immature.
Right. The mature ones, though, start to split, almost like a split leaf philodendron.
Yeah, you get confused with
Yep.
Yeah.
them when you see them. You think you're all excited. You're walking through the jungle. You're like, it's a split leaf philodendron. I'm going to take a cutting, and then you realize
Now, do
it's
those,
just a
those still
pothos.
make good house plants, the split leaf philodendron?
Oh yeah,
They're good
Yeah,
house
they're
plants,
great
right?
house plants.
Oh, yeah.
They used to, in the 50s and 60s, you'd see them a lot indoors.
Where did I just see somebody online posted a Monstera Thai constellation for sale,
Oh really?
and it was $10,000.
Oh my goodness.
Take that to the auction
Yeah.
and get 12 for it.
Carla says that she needs, in quotation marks,
Needs.
more Streptocarpus than clematis or clematis.
Clematis.
Either way, right, John?
While I was researching,
Tomato.
I think I more often now say clematis. I was always strictly a clematis person,
Mm-hmm.
but now I say clematis.
It rolls a little better off the tongue.
It does. But then while I was researching which name is correct, and for our listeners out there, good news, both are correct.
Here's another one where I think both is correct. Do you say often or often?
I never say often.
I don't
It's a
either. I say
silent T.
often.
They're both
What do-
correct.
What do
though?
you say? Somebody looked it up.
It's
and-
often.
Often.
But here's the
I
thing.
feel like I say often.
When I say both are correct, let's say that correctly said is often, but if pop culture people start saying it another way, then the dictionary or the
Changes.
thesaurus
Oh, yeah.
will become acceptable because people are putting a T into it.
See, I don't like that.
But it's got a T in it.
But it's silent.
So why put a T if it's why not just spell it OFFEN? Then
All
if
right,
it's often?
psychology is PH.
Right.
It's not psychology. It's silent.
It's got a P in it. Yeah. Why would you not pronounce the P?
I agree. Why put the letter? In French language, they always put S's everywhere, and they never pronounce it. You know?
I think the
I don't know
French
why they
only
even put it.
pronounce half the letters in their words.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that is true.
And this is the beauty of this
And
show,
it's not always
ladies
the
and
same
gentlemen.
half.
We go from gardening and horticulture to how to pronounce English, French names.
Well, we have a lot of weird names of plants.
We
and
do.
That's why we go to languages, I feel, a lot, right?
And you interrupted me when I was trying to make a point on the
Oh.
clematis and clematis. While I was researching that, I also found a third pronunciation that they use mostly in England, but a few places in the United States, and it's clematis.
Clematis?
Clematis.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
that just sounds wrong.
Uh,
Yeah.
I think
don't know about that.
clematis is mostly an English pronunciation, British pronunciation, I
John,
should
will
say.
Hinoki cypress do well or grow in Boise?
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
who?
Way to go, Rick. That's Rick.
That was Rick last
Yeah.
week, too.
Yeah.
We couldn't answer that for him.
Oh, all right. And where was I? What's the nursery up there? Edwards. Edwards had quite a few Hinoki cypress while I was there. I love Hinoki cypress.
Well, Hinoki dokie.
Okie dokie. Well done. Oh.
Let's see.
We got about a minute before our next break, and we have one more segment after this. By the way, nice shot of you. That's
Yeah?
good. I like that.
It's kind of like upper through the
That's
plants
good.
kind of a thing, right?
Maybe next week for John, we take one and put it right there on him.
Just right there.
If
I'm
we
going to
don't-
put it on his mic stand.
If we don't have all something there, we
Yeah.
can put that extra camera there.
Sue wants to know how to identify male zucchini flowers.
You lift up the little flower, right? A little leaf.
No. The female flowers on zucchini, this is weird because the zucchini, the squash itself,
We have to go to a break. I'm sorry. It's always John.
well, I have to explain this when we come
Yeah,
back.
that
It's
whole
important.
folks, Facebook, Biz Talk. Stay right there. John's going to continue this fantastic story. Got to keep on time. Going to take a break. We're Garden America. These messages coming your way on Biz Talk Radio. Stay with us. Okay, we've made it. This is our final segment. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and all the little animals who are gathered around the radio or Facebook Live who are tuned in every week. This is it. Before we get any further, though, right back to John's story before we lose our train of thought.
Yes, Sue wants to know how do you tell male zucchini flowers, and I started to point out that usually the fruit comes from a flower, right?
Mm-hmm.
But on squash it doesn't. If it's a female flower, the squash comes out first, and the flower is at the end.
At the end of it.
Yeah,
Right.
and when it gets pollinated, then the squash itself develops. Otherwise, it turns yellow and falls off. But the male flowers are just a stem. There's no little squash behind it. So on Costata Romanesco, you would see probably a 3 to 4 inch stem, and then the flower, which again, it can be used in cooking, but it's a much larger flower than usual.
I was going to say the size too is another way, because the male flowers, even at young, are bigger usually than the female flower, right?
Yep.
And so does that fulfill her answer then?
Should.
Because I was going to say it's super funny too, because there was that device that they sold. Remember that pollinator thing?
Oh, the vibrator.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, the little
for like the
veggie
tomatoes.
bee. It was called a veggie bee.
Veggie
veggie
bee.
bee, yeah.
That's what it was called.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, exactly. You used to walk around with your squash and your
Yeah.
zucchini and your cucumber, and it's this like vibrating toothbrush kind
That
of
was
a thing.
mainly used for
I thought it was
tomatoes.
Oh, I thought it was squash. But
Well, you
no,
might. No, I don't.
or is it tomatoes?
Yeah, I think it's
mostly.
tomatoes, and the reason is tomatoes are not bee pollinated.
Yeah, they just kind of are.
They're kind of wind pollinated.
Right.
So this
Or-
helps them along. is
So
what
if
it
you
does.
go through and you shake a tomato plant, you will,
When it's in bloom.
you can threaten it a little bit if you want.
Doesn't like to be choked.
Yeah, you don't want to do it too hard though. But
Easy.
But that'll set fruit, and people also used to use tuning forks.
Yeah.
But that's where the idea for the veggie bee came from, is, to keep hitting that tuning fork and then touching it to the back of the stem of the flower. The veggie bee was much easier
Right.
to use.
Right.
Yeah.
Battery operated, I think, too, right?
It was battery
Take
operated.
it anywhere. You can take it anywhere.
Yeah. I'm sure nowadays it's probably you just plug it into USB charger or something.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I think they did have a rechargeable one too.
See?
So
Oh.
I'm sure if you
Yeah.
you Google Veggie Bee,
they're
you can
still
see.
around.
Well, they're
Are
still
they
around.
Still around?
Yeah.
You don't sell them, do you?
No. But, I mean, back to kind of like the pollination, I was talking about the mandarins, how they try to keep them separated so they don't get cross-pollinated. It depends on where you live for pollination, too, because, when it comes to requiring bees, hummingbirds, butterflies, flies, wind for pollination, some of the city gardens, it's challenging because if you're trying to garden on a patio and you're in a building structure and there's not a lot of other life around you, it could be a challenge getting your plants to actually set fruit. Even though you might be in the middle of millions of people, there's just not a lot of wildlife around you to make that happen naturally. Yeah.
Rick wants to know if you're excited about any new vegetables.
Any new vegetables?
I think one that I think's kind of exciting for just about everybody because it's a great plant to grow in a pot is the potapino.
Potapino?
Yeah. Do you know that one?
No, it's a compact jalapeno one.
A compact jalapeno, yeah.
Yeah.
So, and that's new this year, I think.
Uh-huh.
The one that was really popular, probably, thinking now, was it 5 years ago, where you just couldn't get the seeds, and now they're more available, was the habanada.
Habanada. That's a great one.
Yeah, it had the habanero flavor without the heat.
I'm doing an experiment with my shishito peppers. I just couldn't keep up with harvesting them. Meaning,
that many?
There's just so many peppers on this bush, and I just could never keep up with it that I've just let it go because I'm like,
Whatever.
But the more peppers are on it, and they're there, and so I wasn't getting good production because I felt like, I don't know, they were just putting too much energy into these not good peppers. But now it's coming into the time of year when it should be growing more because over winter it's still green, live plant, no problems. But now is the time of year when the peppers
You expect something.
Well, they start to grow. It's getting warmer. Now's the time of year, and I'm starting to see substantial size shishito peppers on it again. So I'm thinking I might just be able to not have to worry about it, just let it go year after year.
So by neglecting it, you're getting more prolific
we'll see.
growth?
It might.
Well, usually you
fail.
treat peppers as annual plants.
Yeah.
Peppers and tomatoes, but they're not annuals if the weather's warm.
Yeah.
They're tropical plants, so.
Yeah, and then I had that Mad Hatter one too, almost completely dead, watered it, came back to life. It's amazing. I like peppers. So I'll have to try that potapeno.
Potapeno.
I'll have to look for that and try that one out because I like peppers. I like growing them. I probably like growing them more than tomatoes.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, because they don't grow as wild.
Yeah.
The tomatoes that are fun to grow, though, are the true dwarfs.
Yeah, the ones that don't grow wild. Exactly.
Yeah, the true dwarfs. I had something really interesting to say, and it just flew out of my mind. I have no idea what it was.
30 seconds. We got about a minute before we wrap things up.
Maybe I'll think of it for next year.
And then write it down.
Next year?
Next year. Next week.
Yeah.
And then write what could be next year.
It could
be right. Make
Can
sure
you
you
imagine
write
we're
it down.
sitting here
I
a
have
year
no
from now?
idea what I'm saying anymore.
All of a sudden, John comes up.
John's like, hey, you remember a year ago when I couldn't remember what I wanted to say?
Well, that's about going to do it, gang.
Oh, I just thought of what it was.
Go ahead, John.
Buzz buttons. We were at Edward's Nursery, and for the first time I saw somebody selling them as annual plants.
Uh-huh.
And I gave one to my son.
Uh-huh.
And he chewed on it and said, wow.
Wow.
Yeah. Buzz buttons. Look them up.
Okay.
Great for mixed drinks.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful.
Also called toothache plant because it'll take care of your toothaches.
It'll numb it right up.
Yeah.
Okay, we've got to go. Thank you so much for tuning in this week. Our discussion on seeds today with Renee Shepard. We'll do it again next week right here back in the studio. I'm Brian Main, Tucker Palafox, John Bagnasco, the whole crew. And a shout-out to Daniel, our IT guy. Today's show will be uploaded by early this afternoon on our YouTube channel, Garden America Radio Show. Go to our website, gardenamerica.com. Until next week, have a great rest of your weekend. Enjoy the week. Be safe. And we'll do it again next time right here on Garden America. Take care.